Okay, so this is the first VEX Code tutorial, and I'm just going to start with some very simple basics and kind of getting the robot to drive. So the first thing you're going to want to look at is when you open VEX Code, it's going to look like a simple home page. Now what you're going to want to do is do File, and then you're going to want to hit Open Examples, and there should be a competition template that shows up like this. Now the competition template is what we're going to choose because it basically comes preloaded with an autonomous and user control just separated out for you so you don't have to code that in. Now when you click that, you're going to get something similar to this but without any code. But without any of this code or stuff like that. This is what I'm going to show you guys how to do. So come to it should be main.cpp. That's your main file. This is where all your main code's going to go. So the first thing I did here is I've initialized a left motor. So you obviously have a left motor on your robot. So what this line is doing is it's basically connecting your robot to your computer. It's saying the left motor on your robot is here and it's in this port. So that's where you need to know where it is. So you do the exact same thing for the right motor. The first argument is what you call it, but the first section is what we'll call it for now, is you need to know what port it is. So on your brain, whatever port you plug it into, that's what you put in here. Then this is the gear setting. It's not really that dependent, but just know that that's there. And this decides if it's reversed or not. So when you say true, that means that it's going to be a reversed motor, and when you say false, it means no reverse. So it's pretty simple. Generally, you start out with a false, because generally you don't need to reverse any motors, but if you ever need to because one's spinning the wrong way or something and you can't figure out why, simply just come here, change this to true. So I'm keeping this false, and all this is doing is initializing a controller. So this is what you're going to use when you want to get like an axis value or something like that. Now, what you see here is the actual drive. So I'm going to quickly talk about structure. Pre-auton is where you put like setting values, and it even says in this example, clearing encoders, setting servo positions. Then here is the autonomous. This is where you'll put your autonomous code. And in user control, this is where you're going to put your drive. So as you can see, I already have a drive programmed in. Now in here, it says left motor.spin. The first argument is what direction. So you generally want to just put that at forward. The next is what is the value. So let's say that I put 100 here. That means that as soon as you start your program, that left motor is going to be spinning at 100 infinitely. So the reason we have the axis here is what happens is in a VEX controller, you can see that we are getting axis 3. Now axis 3 over here is this one. So whatever value axis 3 is at is what it's going to drive at. So if you put the joystick all the way up, it's going to be driving at 100. If you put it all the way back, it's going to be driving at negative 100. So that simple value change is what you're putting in here in one line of code. Now with the right motor, it's the exact same thing. I'm pretty good, how are you? Good. Now with the right motor, it's the exact same thing, except it is getting the other axis, axis 2. Because when driving in tank, if you move both forward, it goes forward, one backward. So that's all you're doing. That's the drive in simplest forms. And right here is the velocity units, and you're just setting it to percent because, I mean, you can really set it to anything, but percent is generally what the axis is measured in, so you'd want to do that. And that is basically a simple drive. If you hit build, as you want to build generally every few minutes just to make sure all your code's working. So as you can see, build complete gives you some information. You generally don't need to know this. Now that's all you need to know for a drive, and I'll quickly review showing that this is what I put in, and then this is what I put in. That's all you need to change. Everything else is made for you. And that's it.